Hello, so I have found another group and they remind me of the group from 28 Days Later. Selena, Jim, Hannah, and Frank. And the reason why they remind me of that group from 28 Days Later is because they believe that in order to thrive, you do not need a heteronormativity family. And I think that's a very important asset to my group because we also believe that, and we personally believe that having people with different values and just mindsets and, different gender, different backgrounds, that will help us thrive as a group. So that's why we are excited. So as I was reading The Aesthetics of Risks and Dawn of the Dead and 28 Days Later by Jordan S. Carroll, I saw something that grabbed my attention, and it said, the film nevertheless maintains a highly unsettled stance towards family values. Jim's parents die, and he takes on Frank as his father. When Frank in turn dies, Jim himself must become a father figure to Hannah with Selena as his partner or wife. By substituting a mixed family of choice for biogenetic kinship, the film tries to distance itself from heteronormativity, patriarchy, and the nuclear family. So while I was watching the movie, I definitely noticed the different gender roles. That's something that stood out to me, but I never once really sat there and thought about how it was showing family values. So reading that in Jordan S. Carroll's article, that was very interesting to me. That's something that intrigued me, and that's why I wanted to talk about this. But yeah, so a little more about those characters from 28 Days Later. So that group really showed kind of like girl power. So girls were doing things. So Selena, she was a total badass. I mean, she literally could handle everything herself. She had this mindset of surviving is the only goal, surviving is the only option, building friendships, relationships with anybody, it's just pointless, don't do that. She told Jim, if you're too slow to keep up, I will leave you. And Jim was kind of the complete opposite. So Jim was more so not going to leave anybody behind. He's going to be there and not super badass, but I don't blame him. He just woke up from a coma kind of thing. Throughout the movie, Jim even thanks Selena and says that he would have never been able to survive without her. So that's really cool for a man to be thanking a woman for hey, thank you for helping me, I'm surviving because of you kind of thing. That was interesting to watch because you definitely wouldn't have seen that in the older zombie movies. What else? So Jim did mention one time when he first found out, he was just how is there not a government? There's always a government kind of thing. I feel this whole movie, shifting to the next group, the military group, and then going back to that comment that Jim said there's always a military. So I feel as a society, like a pop culture thing, it's just the government's always going to be there. The government's going to take care of us. The military is going to take care of us. They're just not going to turn their backs on us. They're these people are here to protect us. But that wasn't the case. And 28 Days Later, that group ended up being horrible. So their mindset was just not in the right spot. They wanted to recreate their society. They wanted to make the girls reproduce, to make babies, and to try to build their society back up. But I just think that's really dumb, because if you haven't even figured out how to fight off the zombies, why would you even want to create your society again? Why would you want to bring new human life into this chaos that you guys are dealing with? So I think that is something that is a threat from the other group. So the group with Jim, Selena, Frank, and Hannah, I don't really think they have a big of a threat, unless you want to say that Jim willing to help everybody is a threat, but I don't really think that's a huge threat, so it's okay. But the military group, that's a huge threat. That mindset of trying to tell women what to do and trying to make them reproduce. And then also they had a zombie captured, and that just was not smart either. But Are there any lessons we can learn from zombie stories in pop culture? Yeah. So I think the very important one is the one I was talking about, the heteronormativity and patriarchy. So the patriarchy one, I think, was very important because they didn't need a man to lead the group, which is another benefit that I would want to put in my group. So I'd want to get the other survivors in my group so that we could have that, because I think it's cool that you don't need a man to lead the group. So like in 28 Days Later, I mean, they didn't need a man in charge like the military group did. Like I mentioned earlier, I mean, so I feel like Selena was more of a total badass and like butt kicker compared to the guys in that group. And there was even a part where I think Hannah, whenever they're fixing the tire, I mean, like, she's under the car helping. Like, she's not just, like, standing on the side doing nothing. Like, those girls are, like, actually helping in their group. So that's something really that stood out. And I think that's very important to break those norms. Thank you.